What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp Podcast. My name is Devin Klein, and I am the founder and visionary with my co-founder and CEO, my wife, Morgan Klein. As you all know, she's literally right on the other side of this wall, and we keep it 100 here at the office. We've got puppies, we've got babies. I got my new baby girl. Come here. Come here, Hazel. Come here, baby girl. I want everybody to see. If you're listening on podcasts, I'm sorry. Give me kisses. If you're listening on a podcast and you can't see her, remember we record all of these on YouTube as well. So there's always a visual, and we're excited to have some love in the family. Morgan and I had a string of losses here in late 2022 and early 2023, where started with one of my best friend's father, who is also one of my father's best friends. My half-brother, Jason, who I'm very close with. He also owns a burn boot camp in Portage, Michigan with his wife, Aubrey. And his father died. And then we lost two German Shepherd puppies, my Zoe and my Coda, which I'm still sad about. But this little love is filling the void in my heart. And then my father passed away, and then Morgan's grandfather. So we had a stretch of just tragedy. And, we'll talk about that a little bit. But this dog has been that little pop of love that we needed in our life. And people had said and told me my whole life that life is mostly tragic, and you kind of experience that once you go through a period of 5 or 6 months where it's just back to back to back, one thing after another. You know what, y'all? Like, it's sad and it's unfortunate, and it's crazy how quickly it happened and how it happened. Like, which I won't go into, but like just how it all happened was insane, and it was intense and emotionally, stressing, and trying to run the business and all the things at the same time. You know what? It was that, but it was stressful, taxing. But I'm built for this. I think it is a byproduct of the conditioning that I've had since I was just a young kid. Having to deal with my father's aggression and alcoholism, and at a very young age, and my mother leaving my family at a very young age, taught me what pain was. And I feel like a lot of what I want to help even like the younger generation realize is that pain is your ultimate power, that adversity is your ultimate advantage. And even though life is tragic, mostly, who you are is determined based on how you respond to the tragedy. How, like, your inner world, your attitudes and your beliefs and your efforts about things happening to you, why they're happening, and how you respond to it. And it's not necessarily about what happens to us, but it's more about who we're becoming. And I realize that as I'm getting older. Now that I'm 35, and this business has been like an incredible mentor for me in itself because of all of the problems that I've had to deal with. None of the pain that I've experienced, and there's been a lot of failures, and a lot of lost money and mistakes, and a lot of unintentional degeneration of trust and things like that happen over the years. Bad conversations, good conversations too, but you mostly remember the bad things. And it's been really painful. As much pleasure as is derived from that pain, like, without the rain, you don't really get to experience the sunshine. But it didn't even compare. Like, the pain didn't even compare. My adult pain didn't compare to what I had to deal with when I was 5 years old, when I was in survival mode and traveling around the country with my mother and my brother, away from the men in my life, not in a home for more than a couple months at a time, and having to constantly make new friends everywhere I went. Man, thank the Lord, He blessed me with just a DNA that's extroverted and that needs to speak to people in order to feel fulfilled and happy, and gets energized off social interactions. Or else I could have easily been one of those kids that just showed up and didn't speak to anyone in the new environment, because I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old in a new school 3 times a year oftentimes. And so that was painful. And you fast forward to when I finally get back to Michigan, and I have this historic interaction with my dad, where he and I got in a fist fight because I was trying to protect my mother. And there's been, I think, 50 plus, something like that, domestic or criminal charges, and a lot of them were domestic violence. And I was sick of that at 12 years old. I was just sick of seeing that in the house, and I was going through puberty a little bit and started to get aggressive, and I kind of bossed up, and that was not a good idea because my dad's a big dude, was a big dude, and great guy at heart, but when he was off the bottle and off the drugs, it just really, man, it really turned him into a different person. It really fed his bad wolf, and inside he had propensity to be a good wolf too. And so, I had to go through that pain, and I became distant from my father at 12 years old. He was my superhero up until then, and I was also like mommy's little angel until around 12 years old. And after that after that child abuse charge was filed at 12 years old, and I watched my father get carted away in the back of a police car, and my mom kind of cheering for it in a nihilistic, kind of evil, malevolent way. Sitting on the porch, kind of like a classic movie scene with like a blanket over me, and just kind of sitting there watching it all take place. From that moment, that was like the deepest moment of like shame and embarrassment and pain. You can remember these things at 12 years old, and I think there's something about being in puberty too that was really emotionally embossing at the time. But that pain that I experienced gave me a realization, and I remember having it too. And I didn't language it exactly like this, but it was basically like, hey, it's just me, myself, and my creator. Like you have no one else, dude. You have no mentors. You have no money to, that can attract, people. You have no skills, really, abilities, knowledge outside of like playing sports. And I'm a young kid, so you shouldn't. But there's really no reason. There's no reason for any 12-year-old kid to have to feel like they're a man and bear that responsibility. But I did, and I didn't only feel like that. I acted like that. I got myself up for school, walked to school every day. I was told I couldn't play baseball if I didn't get good grades. There was nobody holding me accountable to good grades. There was nobody holding me accountable to my curfew. I didn't have a curfew. I could do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I was unsupervised, and I got into a lot of trouble because of that from about 12 to 18. And always a good-hearted kid, but misdirected and misled. I mean, think about it. I grow up watching all of the men in my environment that I respect beat their women, abuse alcohol, and abuse drugs, and go to jail. My uncles both went to jail. My dad was in and out of jail. There was the lineage in my family. Their father did the same. And, I'm so happy and grateful for those experiences that I have. Like when I have that fist fight with my dad when I'm 12, and I wake up from that a new man. Literally, I wake up from that moment a new man, and begin the journey to self-discovery. And then all the pain that comes with that too. All the pain of wondering as you become more conscious as a teenager, and you start to get more life experience. It's like, why is all of this happening to me? The shame and the emotional pain from that, and the lack of respect that I would get in my community because of who my parents were and what my background was and where I lived and the income I had and the food stamps we were on and all of that. I mean, that shaped the perspective of who I was, Devin Klein, in my community, my tight-knit 50,000 person Southwest Michigan community. That gave me a reputation. And imagine walking around being the kid who like, oh, we don't want you to hang out with Devin. Devin's the bad kid. He's the troublemaker. He's the one that's gonna, hey, stop biting me. That hurts, buddy. That hurts, bud. No kisses. Hazel's biting me. She's a puppy. But, that pain that I had to go through made me who I am. It made me a man. And so now you face pain as an adult, and I've been here, done that. Like, let's go, let's bring it on. All this tragedy that gets put in front of us, although it's, hey, Leslie, can you grab her real quick? Although it's in front of us, and we're dealing with it every day, it's like I've experienced more pain than that. And my message today is like, most people have like good lives growing up. Most people have great parents. Most people, don't feel the pain. You don't feel it. And if you don't feel it and you weren't given that gift of pain, then you have to manufacture it, because you're not going to do great things in your life until the pain of not doing those great things is greater than the act of actually executing on the things that the really hard things that that you have to do in order to get to where you want to be. That's a painful process. That's what I've been doing in the last 10 years, is a really painful process of basically, for the first 5 years, working for nothing, reinvesting every single dollar I have back into the business, dealing with ups and downs, being the person that has to deal with the biggest problems in the organization, and wants to, by the way, deal with the biggest organizational problems, put out the biggest fires, like a professional firefighter for 10 years. There is 90% problems and 10% celebrations when you're in my position, which I embrace, and I love it, because that is not as painful to me as what I had to go through becoming a man at 12 years old, and how fast I had to grow up, and all of the emotions that I had to process. And because of that, there's really nothing you can put in front of me that's going to scare me. You won't catch me imagining ghosts. You're not going to see me fearing things before they actually get here. You're not going to see me fearing or being scared of anything, really. The only thing I fear, and that I know that would tear me apart, is if somebody close to me and my family passed away, right? Like Morgan, Cameron, Maxwell, Ryan, Lori, Larry, Aubrey, Jason, like my Jaden, Nathan, my somebody close to me in the office. Like, those are the people that I love. And it's just an interesting phenomenon as human beings, how we are all motivated by pain, and how most of us don't get what I would say opportunity. And I use that word specifically. You don't get the opportunity to experience pain, which gives you it gives you a leg off, right? Like, as much as my upbringing put me in a ditch, like it put me in a ditch. I don't get to start with $100,000. I don't get to start with family reputation. I don't get to start with built-in confidence and self-esteem. I don't get to start with any of those things. I get to start with disrespect, shame, and being recognized as somebody who will probably never do anything ever, right? Like, you get that stamp put on you, because people in that position usually do nothing ever, right? They end up following in their parents' pathways. Not me. And that was a decision. And so I made the decision at the bottom of the ditch, knowing that to even get to the level playing field, that I was going to have to crawl out of that ditch myself. And the only way to do that is through hard work. The only way to do that is through hard work. To even get even with everyone else, you have to work harder than them, period, y'all. Like, I cannot listen to the Ariana Huffingtons of the world when they tweet like, hey, the grind culture is overrated. Yeah, for you it's overrated. You shouldn't grind. I agree. You're good. Like, you got multi-millions of dollars. You got successful companies. You're a wonderful person. I'm not hating on you at all. Don't get me wrong. I just don't agree with what you say. I don't agree that that when you say you don't have to hustle to be successful, I think you're sending the wrong message to young kids like me who are starting in a ditch. You're starting in a ditch. Tell me then how else I'm going to catch up and get even. How else? Because I don't know. Winning the lottery, all right, that's an option, but improbable. I've got to outwork everyone else. When I was 24 years old, and we started Burn Boot Camp, everybody my age is going out on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday fun day, right? Following the same old college routine that they've been doing. Not me. Morgan and I both, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, go 4 a.m., 2 events on the weekend, wake up on Sunday, spend all day planning for the week. We were in the grind. We were working before we had kids, y'all. Morgan and I both were working a legitimate 90 to 100 hours every single week without pause. Like, nowadays it's like 80 to 90, 80 on average, because we value our family, and we willingly and lovingly and knowingly allocate time to our family, because they are our purpose. Like, what is this? What does all this mean if it's not for them? What does all this mean? And so, my message today for those of you that you might not have had it like me, you might have had it a lot worse than me. If you've had it a lot worse than me or like me, then you know what I'm talking about, and you know how hard it is to get out of the ditch and to get on an even playing field with everyone else that already has some of those privileges. But if you're like most people and you haven't experienced that level of pain, well, then I'm here to give you this advice. You have experienced pain. You have, and you have your own story, and everybody goes through their own pain. Everybody has their own idea of pain. I want you to put yourself in positions intentionally to experience the pain, and so that you can start to manufacture a tolerance against it intentionally. When I'm 12 years old and these things are happening to me, unintentional pain is the best type of pain. Unintentional pain is the best type of pain. Intentional pain is the second best type, right? And a lot of us are just probably uncomfortable with this conversation because the way I'm talking about pain in such a positive light is probably counterintuitive to you. It's counterintuitive. You don't think that the pain is something that is good and we try to run away from it. My advice is run toward it. Actually manufacture it. Don't shy away from it. Lean into it. Lean into a workout, for example. Like the first thing, like if you need to manufacture pain, the first thing that you can do in the morning is get up and do the hardest thing that you could do all day long. And that's, for me, it's come to a 45-minute burn boot camp workout and work my tail off. Make that the most painful thing that I do the first thing in the day. And then my second layer to that is the consistency throughout the week. Create the pain of discipline by refusing to miss a day. Create the pain of discipline by refusing to miss a day. So I'm getting up every day, doing that hard thing, first thing in the morning, doing that 6 days a week. Woo! That's tough. Like, talk about like hard. There's a reason why vast majority of, or at least almost the vast majority of our population is obese, because it's much easier to sit around and not move your body than it is to get up and move your body. It's just a fact. It's not that people that are obese are lazy. I don't believe that. I believe that people that are obese have not manufactured enough pain. They have not said, hey, my lifestyle habits to get to the way I am, this obese body that I'm embodying at the moment, the things that I got, that I did to get here, eliminating those is not as painful as having to implement the things that I know I need to implement in order to get into the body I deserve, right? So the working out, the slight caloric deficit, the recovery, the nutrition, the consistency, the not being able to give yourself excuses or outs or break promises anymore. All of that is way more painful to an obese person than it is than their current state of their body and mind is. And there will become a diversion point when the current state of your body and mind gets to a point where it's like, never again, no longer me, this is not who I am, this is too painful. Maybe it's the one day when you walk by that family portrait that's hanging on the wall and you look over to your left, and for a slight moment you don't even recognize the person that's in that picture. And that hits you like a dagger in your heart. In that moment, decisiveness isn't a choice. You just decide consciously, boom, not me, never again, I'm not doing it. I'm going to change my life, because the pain had built up over your pain tolerance. Now the things that it's going to take for you to get healthy, the eating clean, the consistent workouts, challenging yourself, pushing yourself, saying yes, being optimistic, being positive, eliminating a relationship with food and starting to make food work for you. Not trying to negotiate with food. Food's not living. It doesn't talk to you. I mean, some food, like living organism, it's not communicating with you. You don't have a relationship with it. It works for you. It is fuel. And as soon as you take that mindset, and all of that's less painful than what you're currently experiencing as your lifestyle, you will change. You will change. I cannot want it for somebody else more than they would want it for themselves. And neither can you as a leader. And so whether this hits home from a personal perspective, or a lot of leaders listen to this podcast. That's, something that I've really, I think, found a sense of pride in is, helping other leaders become better leaders to themselves, to their families, to their communities, to their teams. And so there's a lot of leaders listening to this, and this whole ideology of pain, well, it's not even ideology. This is rooted in science and empirical studies, guys. I mean, this isn't my opinion. These things have been around forever. I'm a student of psychology. I'm a student of really neuroscience and biology, and how the intersection of those three things. By no means am I like a PhD or an expert, but in my spare time, that's what I do as a hobby, right? Because I know what it was like to be my dad. I know what it was like to be his dad, and I'm not going even one step in that direction. And I have a bad wolf. Just like my dad, my propensity for evil is pretty high. There's a monster inside. But I've fed my good wolf so much that I've just tempered that monster to be only useful when I need it for the greater good. And that's something you don't want to lose. You don't want to eliminate the bad wolf. You need the bad wolf every once in a while, because you can be too much of anything. If you eliminate your bad wolf and you're too kind, well, then you become rolled over and passive and weak, and people have their way with you, and you can't stand up for yourself, and the promotion you want is too scary for you to ask for the promotion because you're too kind, and you project too much fear in the future, and you imagine too many ghosts on what could happen if you might say this or something might go wrong. And so kind of off the top today, because I just had this on my mind, and as I saw Hazel in here, our new pup, it's like, hey, some of that love needs to be manufactured too, and really intentional about the love that you're getting in your life, because love is a source of pleasure. And if life is mostly pain, well, then what else is it, right? It's got to be pleasure. And so, clouds and rain don't mean a lot without the sun. And that's just life. So anyhow, my current perspective on pain versus pleasure. Hope you guys had a good time on the Ask Devin Anything podcast here on Thursday. Make sure that you flex on that subscribe button. We're on YouTube with the visual. We are on all podcast platforms. Apple review is the best place that you can go if you'd like to give back, if you'd like to tell us how this is going, if you love this podcast today, if you want to share your story, if you want to just put some of your pains out into the world or some of your pleasures out into the world, and be a part of this community and add value to people, and reinforce to Morgan, myself, and the team that makes this podcast that you continue to enjoy it, learn from it, that you are appreciative of it. We work very hard here at HQ to make sure that you have an experience that extends outside of your four walls and really outside of the brand. So thanks for being here, everybody. You can spend your time anywhere, but you're here with me, and I'm so grateful for that always and forever. Let's end this one. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.